This podcast is brought to you by Primary Arms. Primary Arms seeks to provide the best shopping experience for everything firearms. With over 13,000 products from over 400 top brands, Primary Arms carries a complete selection of rifles, handguns, firearms parts, shooting gear, apparel, and more. Every order comes with a commitment to superior service, backed by fast shipping and an expert support team. Primary Arms, serving freedom since 2008. Find out more at frn.deals/PA. Welcome to the AR-15 podcast. This show is for you if you just bought your first rifle or if you've been building them for years. There is something we can all do to take our black rifles to the next level. My name is Nick Tooley, and I am joined as always by my co-host, Tyler Brockle. How are we doing tonight?
Good, Dooley. Yourself?
Oh, just living the dream or something like it.
Fuck yeah.
I would ask if you've done anything cool in the last week, but I think that's going to be 90% of our show tonight.
Yes. Yep. I just got back the other day, and holy shit, do I have emails piled up.
Well, that is good. Obviously, if anyone didn't read from the show title tonight, that we are going to be talking about the NRA annual meeting that Tyler went to, and we might talk a little bit about Primary Arms Range Day and some other cool stuff that happened while he was there, cool things he saw, things that you guys might want to check out, and maybe some cool stuff that might be coming down the pike to the show. But with that, I, of course, did nothing interesting in the world of firearms because reasons.
Did you order anything at least cool this week?
You know, I'm not even sure I ordered anything.
I guess you helped me order a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I helped you order a bunch of stuff, and
it's called enabling, by the way.
Yeah, I'm really good at spending other people's money. No, I guess I did do one thing that is kind of cool. I got a Target trailer.
Oh yeah. Redneck the shit out of that, but I love the idea.
And then all of the supplementary gear for the inside of said enclosed trailer.
Yeah. So you better elaborate on the plan, because this is pretty damn cool, actually.
So I obviously teach classes and stuff like that, but when I go, I always have to, depending upon which range I'm using, I have to bring 10 or 12 freestanding paper target holders and all the target stands. When I go shoot matches, I do much the same, and then also all of the steel targets and the steel target holders and all of this stuff. And it always takes about 45 minutes to load everything in the back of a pickup or large SUV, because you have to have a fairly large vehicle to haul everything that I drag around with me. So I said, well, let's just get a trailer and do this. Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever seen the E-Track systems for trailers.
Oh yeah.
But gonna run 2 straps of that down each wall, and 2 straps down the floor, and then at the front of the trailer 2 vertical straps on each side to do a workbench, and then store all of the metal target stands at the front, and then all of the furring strips for paper targets and like cardboard along the side by the wheel wells, and then hang all the steel targets off the hooks that allegedly have ratings of like 600 pounds. So we're going to see how they do holding all of my steel going down the sides of the trailer with a little workbench and then some solar lights and stuff inside of it.
Right on. You gonna put a big old 1940s lead-lined refrigerator in this one too?
Maybe.
Snacks? Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe that we might actually do something a little bit more modern, and because I did opt to already start doing the solar trickle charger stuff for deep cycle batteries to get everything going with that. Just to make sure that I have lights and USB power stuff in case someone would have USB-C powered range and target accessories.
Yes. Definitely the C over the micro.
Yep. So
And here I thought I was pretty badass because I went and got a RAM with a RAM box in the bed so I could keep all my ammunition in it. You really fucking killed that fly with a sledgehammer and just said, "Screw it, I'm getting a trailer."
I've got the RAM. I've got the RAM with RAM boxes, and then we've, got that stuff. I'm like, yeah, I really like this, but how much? Like, it's just gonna be way easier if I can just like. It doesn't matter who we're going to the range with.
Yep.
It's hey, let's go. Or if we're going to an event where need to set up a range or something like that, just have a full trailer ready to go for all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's a badass idea. I'm all for it.
And yep, so have that, have 2 poor man's plate racks, a rifle spinner, 4 or 5 steel silhouette targets, all the pesky poppers and stake poppers.
Yeah.
You
Are we wrapping it? We gonna have dually defense on the outside, or
we might wrap it. Not sure. Don't want to make it too big of a target, but we might do. If we do anything, maybe we'll just do the Hawaiian shirt theme on the outside.
Yeah.
Just make sure it's super loud and obnoxious when we're driving down the road.
That's right. Got to be always ready. Have your bourbon, have your show notes, have your pink scar 16 hula shirt.
Exactly. And have those things ready to go. So that would be the only cool thing I've done is to get ready to build all that stuff out, which also should make my wife happier because it'll be less crap in our garage.
Yes.
It'll have a permanent storage solution.
100%.
I mean, which will ultimately just make room for a mill and a lathe, but we're not going to talk about that now.
That's a whole fucking series of shows right there. We start getting into that. But yeah. So anyway, I did go to the NRA show. Started out with Primary Arms Range Day last week on the 26th. Did 3 days in Houston at the NRA, and that was interesting. Not only seeing all the new stuff, but got to get a good laugh at the protesters that were outside as well. And we got a whole bunch of companies. It's not quite the SHOT Show where they're releasing all the new products all the time, but what's still cool about it is you get to walk around, and I would say there are some different companies there. It's kind of a different market, right? Because SHOT Show is meant for industry and industry personnel, and inter-industry networking, and the NRA show is more geared towards the everyday consumer. You're actually allowed to sell stuff. You kind of market a little bit differently, but it was really neat to be able to walk around because it's still absolutely massive. Not quite SHOT Show big, but the convention center that we were at in Houston was still massive, and we were able to walk around and see a lot of kind of cool, familiar faces that you normally see, whether it's on YouTube or advertisements or whatnot, or competition shooters. But you also get to walk around, and I ended up finding, a lot of new and cool stuff, not necessarily, maybe not new to the industry, but new stuff that I hadn't seen before. And I kind of made a list of all the neat things that I came across with, and maybe we'll have some of these companies on in the future to go in depth a little bit more on their technology or on their products. But really what I just wanted to kind of share was the stuff that maybe wasn't as mainstream, that might be new, upcoming, and who knows, maybe it's been there for a while and I just haven't noticed it before, but kind of got a neat variety. So if you want,
well, we can get into that. I've never made it to the NRA show. Been to SHOT Show, stuff like that, been to a couple other large industry events, but never made it to the NRA show. Had plans to go one year, but I think we took a random trip somewhere else instead. And it's a lot of people have had a lot of heartburn with the NRA, which I totally understand because, like when your dues just pay for Wayne LaPierre's girlfriend's dresses, you start to get really irritated.
Right.
And they are having all of their own problems. The NRA annual meeting is one of those because it is open to the consumers, a very unique show to go to. and I've always kind of wanted to make it to one. So maybe next year, we'll see.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know where it's supposed to be. I know a couple of years ago there's another one where somebody was protesting and they were talking about not letting them have it, and Christy Nome pushed very hard to have them have it in South Dakota.
Ooh.
And so we'll see if that ever happens.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be pretty neat.
And significantly cheaper.
Yeah, well, for us. Yeah, definitely for us. And that would be a lot of fun to go to. So I know that you had a bunch of stuff that you wanted to talk about that you had seen while you were there. And, you know, I know there's a handful of things that everyone always passes out while they're down there because, you know, you have the swag and you get stickers and stuff like that. And then you get stuff like things like patches from our good friends at Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co. If you need morale patches, you know, signs, the amazing custom, you know, mouse pads that I call them, but they call them gun mats that show like the exploded views of how the blueprints of how guns work. You know, those things are all just awesome, and you can find those at Patriot Patch. That's patriotpatch.co.
I did grab a few, right? It wasn't as bad as like the SHOT Show where you just got the patch whores, but they still had them out, and I still grabbed a few. I'm still working on. I still got to get my damn felt wall so I can actually start putting them up. They're all just kind of getting a pile right over there on my other table.
Yeah, well, our buddy Jacob might have the best way to attach those to a wall. So for anybody that does the morale patches, you know, they sell these like 3x5 or, you know, like short patch walls that, you know, you see it's patch panels and they're roughly the size of a flag.
Right.
Jacob figured it out. Like he hit the cheat code for it.
Yeah.
Truck rugs, like a bed rug.
Okay.
The rugs that go in the back of a pickup.
Yeah.
That you pick up dirt cheap at, you know, like Lowe's or Runnings or Harbor Freight, any of those. All the patches hold to them really well, and they cost about half of what it would cost to do the same area with patch panels.
And they're more rugged.
Yeah.
I do like that.
So, you know, that's one where that is one of the like cheat codes for doing that. But I know you had a couple different companies or things that you had sent that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like you said, the SHOT Show or NRA Show is one of those that, oh, this is a little different just because people do sell. There are some products that are launched, you know, at or around
NRA.
Yeah, it's like the, you know, I think the X10, you know, the SIG 320 X10 was officially released like a week before.
Sure.
But, you know, it's the first time anyone could see it is at the show.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, not that anyone really cares about that, but, I mean, 10 millimeter is best millimeter.
I've actually never shot one, to be honest with you. I'm pretty boring. I stick with 9 and 45, and I guess I'm just not an adventurous person.
Well, it's 10 millimeter is one of those. It's spicy 40 Smith & Wesson. Actually, it's what 40 should have been because, well, before I go completely down this rabbit hole of talking about the Miami-Dade County Miami-Dade County shootout in 1986, which is a shootout which was very interesting from a tactical standpoint as well as like a training standpoint, because it was the first time that law enforcement officers came up as against an opponent who kind of knew what they were doing. And it was two, you know, service members that were in the Army, and they had got two Mini 14s, and they knocked over a bank. And they were doing their getaway, and two FBI agents were decided to play beat cop for the day and got involved in this. And when this went down, they had this was all going down, and there's a whole giant write-up, and there's documentaries about it. But after you went through how this went down, when they came through, the FBI had switched to 9mm because they'd gone from revolvers to semi-automatics, and I think they were using a Smith and Wesson one of the 10 series, like the 1006 or 1009. They're 9006, and
is this the one where they were saving their brass? Is that the story?
Well, they weren't saving their brass, but they had officers that had dry guns and holsters that had been.
Oh, okay.
And what it was at the time when they did training, they would draw, fire 2 rounds, and reholster.
Mm-hmm.
And when they went through, they couldn't figure this out. And the FBI said, well, obviously this can't be our training problem. This has to be a problem with this damn 9mm. And they said, we're going to switch to 10mm. And because it was the super high power round and all this, and Colonel Cooper did a lot with it. And then there was the Bren 10, which was super awesome, but they never made mags for, which is another topic entirely. But it was a 40 caliber round that was 10mm, and it was the same length as 45. But I mean, it had snort. It was a super high pressure, like, okay, this is really doing something. But then when they couldn't get that to work, they went to a 40.
Mm-hmm.
And 40 and 10mm are the same diameter. But Smith & Wesson was talking with the FBI because they were having agents with small hands. And, of course, in the official reports, they called them all the female agents, which it was a lot of the male agents as well, were having problems with, like, wow, this thing really kicks, and it's whippy and snappy, and people aren't shooting it well because it weighs the same as a 9mm, but it has, like, twice the, it's not stopping power, but it's, barrel whip and stuff like that. So they said, hey, have we got something for you? And they cut they took a 10mm case and they trimmed it back, and then just stuck the bullet in it. This is the 40 Smith & Wesson, and it'll fit in a 9mm magazine, so we can use these smaller framed handguns. And some of the original 40s actually had a lot of frame issues because they were using 9 frames that went into that stuff, and then they weren't designed for that higher pressure. And that is a lesson on how the one shootout brought us 40 Smith & Wesson that no one cares about other than, like, me and 4 other people.
But 40 Smith & Wesson was pretty big there. It was all the rage for the longest time.
Well, that was because it was what the FBI used, so all the law enforcement agencies used it.
Yeah.
And then, Glock and Smith & Wesson and everybody really pushed 40 Smith & Wesson. Well, Smith did, obviously, because they had the naming convention. And then it was one of those, oh yeah, I mean, the first handgun I purchased myself was a 40.
Sure.
It was a Beretta.
Yeah.
It was a Beretta 96.
I've stayed away from it. Not, no particular reason other than standardization of the ammunition that I have. I'm not going to get in the 40 cal debate. I really don't care. But I've actually never had one. I've shot one, but never had one.
Well, this was almost 20 years ago when I bought that first handgun.
Oh yeah.
And actually bought it at Cabela's home on leave from Iraq. And there was like, no, I want this because I carried an M9, and I was like, oh, 40, it's got all my stopping power. And it was before I really knew anything. And then after that, after I started shooting more, I promptly converted it or bought a conversion barrel for 9mm.
Oh yeah.
And the 40 barrel sits in a corner of my gun safe, knowing that I could always go back to shooting 40 if I had to.
Yeah.
But
whatever's available on the shelf, fuck it.
Yep. But so anyways, as we were talking, we went from 10mm to 40 caliber Berettas.
Yeah. All diversification on the AR-15 podcast.
Yep. I know that you had a handful of just people listed that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And so what were some of the cool things you saw?
Well, I'm going to start off with Doran Technologies. So this company was pretty cool. And again, maybe this stuff's been around and I've just been ignorant to it. But what they kind of have, they have a slew of things, but one of the particular things that I found was pretty cool. They have, and after talking with them, I ended up meeting them at the bar at the Hyatt there in Houston one night. But they were the first ones, I guess, to get ATF approval on 80% SCAR upper receivers. And for those of you who don't know, the serialized component of a SCAR is actually the upper receiver instead of the lower receiver, unlike most AR platforms, which is, I think, pretty unique. So yeah, the lower on a SCAR is normally an all polymer, but you can also, there are some aftermarket OEM companies that do offer aluminum ones and others as well. But this was pretty cool. They were talking about how they went through the process, because obviously you have to define what 80% is, right? Is it what features are not there that make up the 20%? And obviously that's been done a long time ago on the AR lowers, and they're quite prevalent now. But when you got something like this, that's kind of unique. It's they got to go through the whole process and kind of pioneer it, which they did, which is pretty awesome. So basically what that allows you to do is, you could really go out and I do believe they offer the lowers as well, but I know there are companies out there that do custom SCAR lowers that, allow you to take AR-10 mags instead of having to use the FN SCAR mags. Basically you can build your own custom SCAR, and then they've done a few modifications to it as well, right? They didn't just, and actually if you can share my screen, Dooley, I do have it up here. Now this one that's on their website is a little bit different than what they had, but
I was just doing the pulling them up as well.
Oh, sure. But yeah, they do have a few. It's just a little. It's custom in the sense that they added M-lock right into the upper receiver. Let's see here. You got them up. Go into products, and it's down at the basically Cypher receivers right there at the bottom, second one up. So they built
slide or regular ones, just Cypher receivers.
Either or. You can also get it. Not only can you get 80%, but they also do serialized ones as well, and they're pretty decently priced, if I recall. I think around the tune of $350-ish. I can't really remember.
These all read 556.
SCAR. Well, that's what the SCAR 16 is.
But it's SCAR 17, which is interesting to me.
But yeah, so they've kind of changed the profile of it a little bit to make it a little sleeker. They added the M-lock into the receiver, which is pretty neat because the SCAR comes with bolted-on Picatinny rails, and most people end up, I think, taking those Picatinny rails off and adding either like Midwest Industries or Kinetic Development Group barrel shroud extender. It just gives you a little bit more length of grip on the SCAR. So yeah, pretty neat little company. You can get it in a variety, I think, of colors of Cerakote as well. And then in addition to that, they also make P90 aftermarket P90 upper receivers. So if you want,
I saw that where they had the stainless steel P90 upper, or well, it's a
yep, and it's pretty slick too, because they're, how do I want to say it? The area where the optic mounts, they've really slimmed it down, even more. A very small gun. That was the whole kind of premise of it. Make it super compact with the bullpup design, fit 50 rounds of 5.7 by 28 in it. But the original ones had like a built-in optic. They were kind of bulky on the top.
Yep.
And then FN even came out with a newer revision, which slimmed it down, added a Picatinny rail. And then Doran Technologies has it where it's just pretty much a little Picatinny rail. And so they've even slimmed it down even more. And it's a pretty cool feature. So yeah, if you wanted to like they were saying, CMMG offered a barrel for the P90, and so basically you could go and get all the parts from them. If you picked up a P90, just the injection molded polymer portion of the stock, you could pretty much build your own P90, and it was pretty slick. They also had like a dual charging handle for the P90, which it does have, but I guess this one's removable, so it allows it for a little bit easier cleaning.
Yep, and then there's the lower portion, if you would.
Oh yeah, yep, for the scars as well. So yeah. Very, very cool. If you're really into scars, especially if you're really into building your own scars, check out Doran Technologies. They got a lot of really cool stuff.
Yep, and I know that they're not the only ones that have that where the upper is the firearm.
Mm-hmm.
The Strybog is another one where the upper is actually the firearm and not the lower.
Is it Strybog or Stryborg?
It's there's no R in it.
There's no R. Okay, sorry, I must have misread it.
No, it looks like it should be, because you want to say cyborg.
Right. So yeah, let's see the other one. The next one would be a company called Deadfoot Arms. This was pretty neat. I was just walking by, and they had their basically an entire, column of guns just sitting out in the aisleway. And what caught my eye was what I thought was an MP5. And upon further inspection, as I walked up to it, this MP5 was rocking a 33 round Glock magazine. So I knew something was kind of off there. And went up and started looking at it, started talking to the gentleman from Deadfoot Arms. And it turns out they make an MP5 upper receiver that you can put on an AR-9 lower. Very, very cool. And they offer it in the two different MP5 configurations, the Navy version, and then I can't remember what the other one is, the other more traditional looking one. But it's not roller delayed blowback like the MP5. It's still direct blowback, but it was pretty cool. You still got the forward charging handle. I wasn't sure. I forgot to ask if the forward charging handle actually locked back on the last round, because obviously the MP5 does not. But there are companies out there. What was the company that does make the AR-9 lower that accepts the MP5 magazines?
So that would be New Frontier Armory.
New Frontier Armory.
Yep, they make one that they make an MP5 lower and a CZ Scorpion lower.
Yeah. So basically you can choose what type of mags you want to use, but you can definitely get yourself that MP5 look without the MP5 price tag. So that was pretty cool.
Well, this is neat as well from their website. This is a underfolder kit for an AR.
Yep. Yeah, so they had that on one of their ARs at the booth too. It was kind of a fun little design. You got to have a custom BCG in order for it to work because of the shortened buffer tube. But if you want an underfoldering rifle stock, they manufacture one of those as well. It's pretty cool.
My God,
that is a interesting Cerakote job as well. But
and that is like a CMMG mutant.
Yep. So if you want to be true to the look, but you want it on the AR platform, Deadfoot Arms is the way to go.
That is something special, is what that is. Like I kind of love it and hate it at the same time.
Yeah.
I see this as an absolute win.
Oh yeah, 100%. All right, let's see. Next one I got was White Label Armory, which I think a lot of people are familiar with. White Label Armory, you can basically get what's the word? Variations from the ATF.
Yep. Variants work.
Variants work from the ATF, and White Label Armory can actually help you, manufacture your own line of ARs.
If you are an 07 FFL.
Correct. Yes.
If you're not, then they just sell a lot of parts. I do know, though, that if you would go and look at their website, you could look at the lines of a couple of their AR and AR-15 and AR-10 lowers that they offer, and you will see that they have a lot in common with some other names that used to be really, really big.
Yep. And they offer it in a variety of, as you like right there. Not only do they have like the standard AR-15 lower, but they also look like they have an enhanced one as well, where you got a billet, machined in trigger guard. I also was looking at their bolt carrier groups. They got everything from phosphate to nitride to nickel boron, DLC, you name it. So you can kind of choose your own adventure if you're into building your own AR-15.
I know that they were one of the major manufacturers because they actually produce all of their own parts.
Yes. Yep.
And they were at one time one of the largest OEM manufacturers, where they would send, or a lot of other manufacturers would purchase their parts from white label.
Yep. And there are a lot of big companies out there that spoiler alert, there are a lot of big name companies that do purchase their components from other companies. I mean, and I'm not necessarily saying white label armory, even though I'm sure there are a few out there. I know I've even purchased a few for myself, but such things as like MIM, metal injection molding. That's pretty much what it's basically. You're putting powdered metal into, think of a cast, and then you're pressing it and heating it together to kind of form certain parts.
It's generally stronger than like a true cast, because you typically don't have like voids like you would in thinking of like cast aluminum or cast iron.
The finish is also better because of that. You don't have those voids. You don't have the pitting on the surface. So mimming is actually a way to make
metal injection molding.
Metal injection molding. Yep. Mimming is actually a process that you can create very fine, elaborate pieces that you might not necessarily can or want to machine. And so these things are like your bolt release, your triggers.
I know the company that kind of pioneered MIM in the firearms industry was Ruger.
Oh yeah, yep.
Like they really pushed it hard in a lot of their, like, Ruger guns have always been built like tanks, but that's why in the 80s they got a bad reputation. It wasn't because, that and Bill Ruger said, if you can't do it in 10 rounds, you shouldn't have to do it, because he's wrong. And then blatantly copying the M14 design to make the Ruger Mini 14.
Yep.
Which fun fact, he actually hired Sullivan, who was the same guy who worked for Armalite that shrunk the AR-15.
Yeah.
From 308 from the AR-10 to AR-15. That Strum and Ruger Co. hired the same guy, his last name was Sullivan, to make the Mini 14, where they shrunk down the M14 action to work with the 223.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that bouncing around, even going on today.
I know,
it's the gun industry for you.
Again,
so basically, it's a very specialized process that takes a lot of art. So some of the companies do it themselves, but it takes a lot of high-priced special machines, and some companies order it in. What Light Label Armory does, I don't know specifically. Maybe we'll be able to have the chance to get them on someday and ask them. But basically, point being is a lot of people will use other companies within the industry, and that goes for any industry. Yeah. And if they're better and can produce better parts, I mean, who cares? That's really all at the end of the day that matters, as long as your product works and works well.
You see that? We had Tom ask, "Where's Garth at tonight?" Garth is farming, and he couldn't make it tonight. So we
are not. We do not have that farming curse upon us, so we are
not
able
at
to be
the
here.
moment. Yep. And no, so no, that is very much so a interesting thing, and where they do make a lot of good things, at white label. And I've purchased, like, I think I have their armorer's kit that was like 87 of all the tiny parts.
That was actually the main thing that I wanted to talk about, because obviously, so I do a lot of AR-15 build classes. I own Havoc Engineering Group out of Brookings, South Dakota. Basically, come in, buy a rifle kit, and I know Dooley's done these in the past as well before he got deployed. But yeah, we get to these classes, and of course, all of these components, the detents, the detent springs, they're very small, and they like to shoot out a lot. And so it's an absolute headache. And if you lose one, and of course, you always got that one person that shoots it across the room and can't find it. And if you don't have backups, you stop the whole build. And so one of the coolest things, I don't know if you can bring it up, Dooley.
Yep,
I should
I'm pulling it up now.
The handiest things, I actually went out and had to buy a whole bunch of stock of random parts, pieced together in my cart. White Label Armory actually has an entire armorer's kit, and they have different sizes, different levels of them, but all of these parts are already right there, ready to go for you in a convenient.
Yep. Well, so like here they have the home builders and the master parts.
Yep.
So if you just look at like the home builder kit, I don't remember how many pictures they have of it, but you can see it's quite literally just like
everything,
like a fishing, like a tackle box. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. Just organized little. Yep. Here you go. Here's all the parts you're going to need. And like this,
if you look at the one on the right, it has all the part numbers on the lid as well. Shows you an image.
Yep.
Shows you the name. Shows you the part number. So when you run out of one, all you got to do is just call them right up and say, "Hey, I need this part number," and they'll ship it right to you. You can refill yourself.
Yep.
And so I'm definitely picking one of those up.
Yep. Well, this is again their home builder one, so it's, you can tell the stuff that you lose more because it's got 4 pivot pins, 10 detents, and then you get here the spring pivot takedown, 20 of those. It's weird how all of the things that you go, yep, springs are bad, let's just get a bunch of those on. Detents, we need all of those.
Mm-hmm.
And then your gas keys, your gas pit, your gas rings, all of that stuff to work on it, the small parts. And that's just handy to have around.
Oh, I know. I was looking through Harbor Freight and Lowe's, all trying to find one of these things, and it's tricky because these like tackle box containers, when you go to a hardware store, they're meant for you to put woodworking screws in, right? So they're very large. Some of these components are so freaking small. If you were to like just turn it upside down, all the stuff would just fall together and be a complete mess. So it's really handy that I was nerding out over this. This is something I'd been looking for so long, and here they
one of those will probably find its way into my trailer.
Yeah, 100%, if not 2.
And just like, oh no, we're gonna keep this over here. And no, those are awesome. And like you said, it's great because you have all that extra parts on hand.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it, when you go through, like, even just like so they have the big one that's the master kit, but a lot of people don't need to have 10 extra firing pins on hand or something like that.
No. Well, that's where it'd be like, buy that once, and at least I have the comfort of knowing I got 5 to 10 firing pins. But really, I'm buying it for the detent pins and the springs.
So yeah, that's I am much in the same boat for why I would. I go through enough of the parts sometimes, but this is one that really a lot of people should keep around.
Yep.
So this is their WLA range repair kit. And if you look in here, you'll notice a couple things that are a little bit different because yes, it does have a bunch of small parts. And you go 275, that's an awful lot of money to keep, just have, some random parts laying around. But yeah, you have your 4 pins, your pivot pins, your takedown pins, the little bit of detents and some detent springs and all of that. But you also have 5 hammers, 5 triggers, all of the springs for hammers, and then you have a complete bolt carrier group, a complete bolt, gas rings, extractors, all of that. So it's actually everything you need to put your whole lower parts kit together.
Yeah. And half of that cost right there is the bolt carrier group too, right? Like you're buying some major parts in that particular kit.
And having that bolt carrier group, I mean, I can tell you from experience, I have broken bolts at the range. I've never broke a whole carrier, but I've seen a lot of strange things at the range. I've had bolts break on me. I've had extractors break on me. I've seen all of those things happen. I guess I saw a gas key shear once. That was on an army rifle. But it's when those things happen, it's especially if you're like, oh man, I'm at a big training class, drop a whole new bolt in, or bolt carrier group, and you're ready to go.
Oh yeah.
And that's one of those small things where you can keep these parts on hand and go, all right, well, I can just make it run now, and then you have the parts to come back and work on it later.
Right on. So yeah, this one, they're nothing new, but their products, it was just the right thing at the right time, and I think it's phenomenal. So if you're building ARs, I highly recommend checking out White Label Armory. If you're just shooting and you want to have parts on hand, highly recommend White Label Armory. So it was a kind of cool find and a total win for me. So I just wanted to mention them.
The other cool thing is they have PDFs of how to install everything in a AR-10 and AR-9, AR-15, like manuals for how to do that.
Oh, that's very handy. I didn't even notice that.
Yep, that's just if you go through and click on the manuals and on their website. So that is something good to keep on hand for people who might not put together, 40 or 50 of these a year.
Right. All right. Well, moving on. So kind of a change of pace from guns, because there were not a lot of these types of companies actually at NRA, which is surprising to me. The next company that I found extremely interesting was Challenge Targets out of Cincinnati, Ohio. So they are a steel target manufacturer. And if you want to pull up their website, Dooley, I had a couple of really neat things that I wanted to kind of mention. So the first and foremost, they had these targets. I'm a big fan of IPSIG targets, or targets that kind of resemble the human torso, because it kind of like I'm always about increasing the realism of your training, and it's better than like shooting at a small popper target at the ground. So if you click on the store right there, the first thing I wanted to talk about is their armor post targets. So it's the one right on the top. These are really cool because their riser, they use a AR-15 piece of steel instead of a 2x4. And what that does for you is obviously the 2x4 will never swell and get stuck in the base. You don't have to replace 2x4s, and you're not constantly getting shards of lead impregnated 2x4 in your hand with some other steel targets that are out there. And the really cool thing about this is the base and the riser, they just pull out. So you want to move this thing, throw it in the back of your truck. You do not have to use any tools to disassemble it. The steel target itself just pulls right out of a little, I don't know how to describe it, maybe like a fork at the
There's
top.
Yep. So looking at this, it's like a split fork design that comes in, and they all interlock together. There's a notch cut in the piece that would come down off the back of the target that goes into kind of an L shape, and that has a large, notch cut in the center of it that goes into, that has a piece of steel for their armor post that goes into it, and then bolted to each side of that is another small little L bracket that has a notch cut that those teeth fit into. So I'm trying to think of something similar that
it's hard to describe, but basically it's really slick. You can pull the target off, you can pull the riser off, and you can throw the target, the riser, and the stand just like in the back of your truck. It completely breaks down without any tools. So that was a really, really cool feature. In addition to the benefits of actually having a metal riser as opposed to a 2x4.
I can see how that would be incredibly handy, because as a guy who has 5 or 6 2x4s that have various chunks missing out of them from.
Yep. And that's just the stand, right? Like you can, and we're just showing one AC zone target. They got a whole bunch of targets that work with this particular stand. Choose your own adventure on challenge targets.
Yep, they got USPSA targets. The a square rifle target. They circle gongs.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool little system they got set up there. And so that's kind of more of the, I don't want to say practical, but that's kind of more of your traditional training type stuff. And then they had some insane Texas stars. So if you want to check out, so we all know a Texas star, right? You got the 5, the traditional, and they have the traditional ones. But if you look at the top one right there, Dooley, they got a double Texas star. So it's 2 Texas stars. They're about, I don't know, probably 10 inches away from each other, or maybe a foot. But they're on the same axle, which is held on by 2 bearings. So you start shooting one Texas star and then the other Texas star, and you got basically 2 Texas stars rotating concentrically. And the one that you see in the picture there even is one star's targets are painted white, one star's targets are painted red. You can essentially have a dueling tree Texas star. So that's really, really cool.
I have once shot one of those double Texas stars.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. And it was the devil, but I love it.
Well, then the one right below it, have you seen that one before?
The propeller.
So this is a Texas star. So basically you have an arm, so a rectangular piece of metal with a hole right in the middle where it spins, right? So like a propeller. And then on the end of this arm, you have 2 smaller Texas stars. So not only it's like a double Ferris wheel at the state fair is the best way I can describe it. So not only are the 2 smaller stars rotating, they are rotating on another arm. And so you essentially have 2 Texas stars rotating about a center point, and it's absolutely wild. And I see they even got a triple one there. They didn't have that one at the show.
Yeah, they also have a revolving plate rack.
Yep. So I kind of think of that as it looks like the zipper at the state fair. So
some of these I just look at and I'm like, I just want to go, who hurt you?
Yeah. And then they also had I think it might have been the rimfire one there, but they have a small portable Texas star. So
that's right here. It's it's listed at $635, which, if anybody, Texas stars are amazing to shoot. The favorite one I've ever seen, I've never shot it, but it was it was like a double, much like the one that we showed at the top there.
Mm-hmm.
But when you shot it, it was hanging and it swung back and forth.
Oh, so like a pendulum.
And a Texas Star at the same time. They called it the Death Star.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was. Then I see also here they have one other thing down at the way bottom of their list of things that they sell. That looks interesting. I think I've seen these before.
Yeah, they might have came across every once in a while. So if you wanna take your training to the next level, you can definitely try some of their smart target attachments. But hey, if you can go back to that steel target, or not the steel target, the Texas Star, the portable one, that same thing. Yeah, so it uses the stand uses the same thing as the armor post stuff, where the stand and the base completely break down, and you can easily just pick that thing up without any tools. Breaks down into 3 pieces, and goes in the back of your truck. So super portable stuff, and really, really fun stuff. So it was kind of neat. We only saw a couple other steel target companies at the show, but these guys by far brought the most stuff, and kind of the most.
Yep, there's if you look inside, it is 2 sealed bearings that are held down.
Yep.
So that actually would help with a lot of that. And I do kind of like their system for how that mounts in to hold their paddles.
Yep. Yeah, I was talking to them. They have like a spring. They spec and make their own springs. So those springs supposedly are not going to wear out. They're not going to lose their spring force. And then obviously using a spring over, say, like I think there's some magnetic ones out there. I learned that the benefit to a spring is, if you do get some dust or dirt or whatever in there, or rocks, the spring can hold it. And it makes sense, because if you have magnetic, it kind of you put any distance in between the 2 metal surfaces, you can lose a little bit of the adherence. So just kind of neat little design aspects that I learned about, and they kind of went over with me. So yeah, it was another one of those cool companies where they just had something different. So let's see, the next one I ran into, and I think we may have discussed them on the show before, was the Ghost Gunner.
Yeah, we had the gentleman who owns it come on and talk about when they were trying to push the 80%. We had Cody on, and it just took me a little bit to remember his name. When they first started to push a lot of the we're going to ban these, and it was going a lot farther than even the 80%.
Mm-hmm.
So they were going to ban split receivers and all this other stuff.
Yeah. And I actually learned about the split receiver at this show. I knew these. So these Ghost Gunners are essentially, and they're on their 3rd iteration. So they're on the Ghost Gunner 3 right now. So for those of you who don't know, these are basically a tabletop CNC machine that you can put in an 80% lower, and it will mill out your 80% lower to a finished receiver. And then you can also use it. I mean, it runs off of, I believe, just your standard G code. You can do some of the custom work, and I see like right there they got one guy had done a skeletonized lower receiver. I know if you have like a Class 7 manufacturing license, you can do you can put your serial numbers, manufacturing location, etc. Pretty neat. I think it's the Ghost Gunner 3 will pump out an 80% lower in under 30 minutes. And then this show, I found the split receivers. So basically you can take 2 pieces of aluminum, and it will just 2 blocks of aluminum, not even an 80% lower. And you have the ability to completely machine out your own lower receiver. And it was kind of interesting. They were showing me how the 2 pieces just fit right together and attach, and you have your own thing, so you don't have to go get an 80%er. It was a pretty neat concept. And I've had one of these on order for about a year now, and talking to him at the show, magically my my machine shipped today. So really appreciate that.
Well, that is handy. And I know that that's one of those where the Ghost Gunners are one of those things where, yes, it is an investment. Like, this is the average, like, I only own one AR-15, or I'm looking to build one.
Mm-hmm.
The the $2,500 price tag of them, you start to do.
Yep.
Whew, that's going to be a lot to swallow.
2,500, and then obviously a few month wait. But if you're a DIYer, if you are somebody who wants to, I mean, from the looks of it and from the research that I've done, correct me if I'm wrong, Dooley, you can do quite a bit more with it than just the 80%, especially if you get into custom milling on your receivers or custom engraving on your receivers.
Yep, I know that they do they have a program set up for them, or on the older iterations where they had an AK receiver that they could mill out. They do an AR-10.
Oh yeah, they do a 1911 frame too, and I believe they also do a Glock frame as well.
Yep. Well, it's a polymer, the polymer 80, the Glock
80,
kits. Yeah. They use those.
Yep.
I know that I talked to them with their original iteration, and I asked if they had the capability to do steel, because I wanted to do. I thought that might be a really great way to do optics cuts on slides or sight cuts on slides for pistols.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean,
but it's with a non-lubricated CNC cut, it is not ideal, because you could potentially wear those motors out. So,
oh sure,
I know it's one of those kind of semi-off label. Like, you probably aren't going to want to make a living doing optics cuts having people send them to you off the internet,
right?
And you might burn a motor out. Brandon, that is Ghost Gunner, like Ghost, ooh, spooky Gunner.
Yep. Yeah, originally they started out doing 3D printed guns, right? Hence the name.
Well, it was after because it was defense distributed.
Well, I think it still is defense distributed. Yep. Might be a DBA, or that might be
the
trade name. But
they did different things, and then it was they did the original Ghost Gunner, and that was back when they were at the pop-up preview at SHOT Show. It was, or not the pop-up preview. This was in the next. The next they were on the third floor, at more or less a kiosk.
Yep.
And I stopped and talked to them for a long time, and remember, because they were a couple tables down from a new rifle that has never been made to my knowledge, but I'm still insanely interested in it. And it was the Skelly X11.
I'm not familiar with it.
If you took like a Bushmaster ACR,
okay,
or like the Magpul Masada, or like a Scar 16 even,
okay,
and kind of breathed on them and made them a little more lightweight, and like there were a lot of super big pluses to this, and like they were on the cover of Recoil and all this stuff, and I was like, all right, this is going to be a thing. Like, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And almost 6 years later, littering and
well, maybe someday. You never know. All these companies, it's cool. Like, sometimes when you can get the in and you learn about the stuff that, I mean, what's disappointing is when you learn about something cool that they were doing, and then they either one, couldn't get it at a price point that the market would pay for it, or two, they hit some kind of intellectual property barrier. It's like, damn, that would have been awesome. I wish could have made it work, but who knows? That stuff can always resurface.
There's another one of those. What was that company named? Oh, Hudson. Yeah.
I don't go through the
Hudson,
story. I don't know.
Hudson H9.
Okay.
They were another one. Like they first year at SHOT Show, they had a big booth. Like, I shouldn't say big. They had like a one of the larger booths. It wasn't just like the card table.
Sure.
And they were right on the main show floor. And it was this, Hudson Manufacturing, and they had a really, really great design. And it was a 9mm handgun that, like, if you looked at it, it looked like it was a reworked Beretta mag, but it was single action only, and the bore axis was super, super low, and it had the recoil mechanism was in front of the trigger guard.
Where did the mag? You mean like right in front of the trigger guard?
Yeah.
Where? Oh, was the mag behind the trigger, or where was the mag?
Mag was in a normal spot for a handgun.
Gotcha.
And,
okay.
Yep. Oh, Tom. It was the Skelly, SKELLI.
Interesting.
A second here. I'll pull up a picture of the Hudson so you can.
How many years ago was this?
I want to say they were like 2017. They were the giant, like, this is going to be the ultimate, like, awesome thing. And I want to say Daniel Defense actually bought, because there were a couple companies that were buying, or that like were interested in them. And there's at least one company that's making parts for them still. And
are you sharing the screen? I don't even see it.
I am.
Okay. Interesting.
So, yeah, that was the.
Yep. Get that recoil spring low, reduces your moment, reduces your felt recoil.
Yep, and then they came out with a polymer framed one later, and the initial ones were all aluminum framed, and they were a very, very unique handgun.
Oh, very cool.
And
did you ever shoot one?
I never got the opportunity to shoot one. I didn't go to range day that year, and then they got really big, and everybody wanted them, and then there were possibly allegations of them not paying bills, and stuff like that, where they quickly went out of business, and one of the wholesale distributors had them on sale for like $300.
No, really?
And I was like, man, I should pick one up, and I didn't, and now they're going for
like 3,000 on Gunbroker.
3 times that on Gunbroker.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens. It happens. All right, I got a couple more here. They're not. I know these next two companies make a lot of different stuff. I just caught my eye on a couple of their couple of things as I walked by. Battle Arms. They got a new. I shouldn't say new. They got a really cool charging handle, and it's ambidextrous, right? But the unique thing about this particular charging handle was that you could still pull on either side of the handle, and the handle itself, it was neat because they had I think it was a 3D printed in clear plastic, so you could see the mechanism inside, but the center of the actual handle that you put your fingers on had a little keyway in it. And so a lot of the ambidextrous charging handles that you see out there, they basically have pins in them, right? So when you pull, you're essentially just pivoting, and then it's causing the release latch that's gripping the upper receiver to release. So you have two
Battle Arms development, right?
Battle Arms development, yep. So you essentially have two pins that you're pivoting against, and if you pull on one side, because it's pinned at a fixed location, you're going to put pressure on the charging handle, and it's going to put a little bit more pressure on the inside of the upper receiver, and you're going to just wear a little bit more on the side that you put more force on. And I never had thought of that before. My charging handles, if they just, they get that natural wear over time, just keep oiling them up. But I do have some ARs where the charging handle has a little bit more wear on one side than the other. And they pointed out it's not necessarily so much tolerances, which that could be an issue as well, but it's me racking the gun a certain way. And when you have these ambidextrous charging handles that are pinned, it will allow you to put pressure on one side. Well, with theirs, in the actual handle portion, and I wish they had a cutaway diagram of it, there's a little cam. And so when you pull back on it, it's pulling no matter where you pull on the handle. The handle essentially centers itself, so you always pull straight back. It allows the latch to release, but allows that handle to pull straight back, and you're not putting, and it allows you to put even pressure on the handle when you rack the weapon. So it was kind of cool. It was a problem I didn't even know existed, but the second they pointed it out to me, now I freaking see it. So at the end of the day, keep your guns oiled, right? But this is kind of a really neat solution. And the second I became aware of it, it's priced right up there at $99 with most of the other
like a Radiant Raptor.
Like I mean that's the one I have, right? Like I love my Radiant Raptor. It's really easy to grip. I also have my my Aero Precision ambidextrous charging handles as well. They work great. They got great coatings on them, but and I'm not saying like those charging handles are completely like war and bare. I'm just noticing, there is a little. I tend to have a little bit more wear on the left side of my charging handle than I do on the right. But
and that is fair because that's how you get a grip on it. Mm-hmm. And how you get a grip on your rifle is with a grip from VZ Grips. The unique features of the AR grips are they're machined from a solid block of G10, and G10 is great because it's durable. It doesn't get slippery when covered in mud, blood, or sweat. The 17-degree grip angle and wide variety of texture from mild to extreme, and color options are also available as well as short ones. 1911 grip features extreme customizability from standard slim palm wells, thumb notches, safety cuts, bottom profiles, and etc. More than 25 textures and 27 colors available. Coupon codes are good for 15% off all handgun grips and rifle grips, and that code is AR-15 podcast.
That was smooth. I think that might take the winning transition tonight. I'll give you that one. All right, let's see. The last product I kind of caught my eye was from Odinworks, which was pretty cool. So they had a ton of products. This is just one product that they happen to have on their stands in the corner of their booth that I happened to really catch my eye when I walked by. And it was an all aluminum stabilizer brace. And it was a telescoping one. And what I really liked about it was, I mean, there are a lot of them out there. There's nothing wrong with polymer, right? Like I kind of like polymer because one, it's not as cold. Two, it doesn't really scratch and wear off. But at the same time, there's just something about having a really solid, well-coated, pretty much any part. But this particular stabilizer brace, all aluminum, telescoping, and obviously, the biggest bonus to me was it had a little button on the left side of the weapon, which pressed, it sprung out. So my MPXs that come stock from SIG with like the 1913 mount, I actually have to hold the gun up in the air, press the button to let to let it drop. It's not spring loaded, and that's kind of what I was really used to. And sure, that's it right there, close quarters pistol brace CQB. And you can see it's got that nice big button right there on the left side. You press that thing, it pops straight back, and of course it's adjustable, and it's out of stock. I should have freaking bought it when I was there. but it's got a shortened buffer tube. Comes with a custom buffer, really slick design. And one of the really cool things there is, if you look at it, it appears that the brace itself, the small vertical portion, is actually bolted onto the bottom, which tells me that they're using the same upper portion, and for their brace versus their stock, it looks like they're just bolting a different, I don't know what you want to call it, fin to the bottom, which is really, really smart.
Yes, that 100% is what that looks like.
Yeah. So not only does that allow you, the end user, to start with a brace, and hopefully you just buy that other little piece and you can convert to an SBR when you're ready. Obviously cuts down their manufacturing costs quite a bit. So shout out on the engineering there. That was awesome.
So you mentioned them, and it wasn't until I pulled it up to look at it here, but I have the Zulu 2.0 adjustable stock that they have.
I saw that one too. It was really clean looking.
In one of the, or I shouldn't say one of, several of the custom rifles I've built and Cerakoted, we've used that. That's one that we did on the John Deere rifle.
Oh, yeah.
We used that, and with the black and the green, it mixed up to actually look like tractor parts. It looked really, really cool. Yeah.
And you're saying that was the stock you actually used?
Yeah.
Oh, that was pretty cool. See, I did see that one as well. I didn't stop and play with it nearly as much. I probably should have a little bit more, but yeah, that looked like a great one too. They had a lot of parts.
Yep.
But like I said, this was the one that caught my eye. I like stabilizer. I like, not braces.
Stabilizer braces.
Yeah, no, yeah, I like the stabilizers quite a bit. I do have a few shorter barreled, less than 16-inch pistols that words.
What do they call them? Large pistols.
Large pistols. Yep, really
stabilized
grip strength. I got very small forearms.
Yes,
so
me too.
Yeah,
I need
to work it. And of course, all these parts are awesome. Every little thing you can do to customize your AR-15 is it's neat. It adds to it. I do a lot of building, so it always gives me. I always got to rein myself in and not buy the next cool thing sometimes because I already got something really good. I was like, oh, that's even better. But at the end of the day, what it really boils down to is training. Even if you have all these awesome parts, even if you got the best stuff, it's really all about training. And speaking of training, if you want a more realistic and fun training experience, a great way to improve your shooting skills is with Trigger Interactive's Smart Target Attachment System. And this is a system of electronic devices that you can attach to any of your steel targets, and it'll allow your range to interact with you just like a military pop-up system would, like we do when we are at a range qual. Targets randomly activate and detect hits during custom drills while tracking your shooting performance and scores straight from your smartphone. So don't just shoot at boring static targets that you're constantly having to go down range to replace. Train smarter with Trigger Interactive. Check out triggerinteractive.com for more information and use code AR-15, that's AR-15, for a 10% discount on all systems. So, yeah.
Well, there you go. That is Trigger Interactive, and that might be the best segue of the night. And
yeah, I kind of planned that one, though. So I gotta step up my game with you and Garth. Other than that, the only other really cool thing, so they also had the Rock Island auction house there. They had Han Solo's original blaster from 1977 on display from Star Wars: A New Hope. So the old Mauser with I don't know what the hell it was, 1x6 scope on it or something.
Broom handle Mauser.
Yeah, yep. So I was nerding out hardcore. I don't know what it's going to go for. If
money,
you check out,
it's going to go for money.
Starting at $250,000 is the starting bid. So yeah, that one was pretty cool. And then they also had Laura Croft's HK pistols there from the I think it was like 2001, 2002 movie with
Angelina Jolie.
Angelina Jolie when she's like shooting that training robot that goes haywire on her. So that was kind of neat. They were definitely used.
Were those P2000s?
I can't remember what they were. They were the Bitone, I think 45, and then they had these massive compensators on them that looked like they mounted on the Picatinny rail underneath it.
So that is an HK thing.
Yeah.
Like all of the HKs built that for a lot of their different handguns where they have a comp that's mounted that way.
Oh yeah, it was like quarter the size of the gun. It was massive. It looked cool.
Yep. I know a guy who is making that right now for Polymer 80. It's a very similar design to that.
Oh yeah.
But it's a frame mounted compensator.
Okay.
Bus built systems.
Bus built systems.
Yep.
Interesting. Right on.
Yep. He kind of took that same idea and went, we could make this gooder.
Yeah. But basically any Glock, right?
Well, no, because Polymer 80 uses pick rail.
1913.
Yep, where Glock has its own proprietary.
Oh yeah, Glock Perfection.
Yeah, Glock Perfection. That everyone buys a Glock and then immediately dumps almost the cost of a Glock into it.
Yep. Yeah, I don't actually have a Glock, so I had a Glock for a very short while. I did not.
I do own one, and it's a loaner gun. And the first thing I did when I got it was I removed the dovetail protectors that they ship them with and put sights on it.
Okay. Yep.
And because I'm not a fan of the plastic Glock sights.
Right. Yeah. No, I have I have the GSG 1911s that I made in my little 22 dueling pistols, and they got plastic sights on them. And I mean, once you start practicing your draws quite a bit, I mean, they start
eat them up fast.
They're bad. You just eat them up too fast. So, highly recommend not pistol, not plastic pistol sights.
Yes, proper pistol sights.
Other than that, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of great companies, but those were kind of the ones that, like, I really saw and stood out as unique and different and something I haven't seen before. So, kind of touched on everything that I wanted to touch on. We kind of went a little bit longer, but I just thought it was really neat to be able to tell you guys about this cool stuff I saw. And hopefully next year, Dooley, you'll be able to come with me, and Garth too, if we can get him out of the damn field.
Yep. And we'll go through there and have more to report and other neat and interesting things and tales of high adventure.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you one thing about the Primary Arms Range Day.
Yes.
Did you see anything neat there that might have been new?
I was working my booth the entire time.
So you didn't get a chance to play with anything.
Man, it was I was there at 7 a.m. Range Day got over at 3. I shared a booth with Cobalt Kinetics. I learned about them several months ago, and common mutual friend put us in touch. They make some amazing ARs because they basically build their ARs, and I know they do a lot of their own machining and manufacturing, but they already put in a lot of the high-end components that everybody automatically does anyway. Geisley 2-stage triggers, Radian Raptor charging handles, Magpul, MOE, rubber rear grips. They just kind of take all the best stuff and already add it in. So I got to shoot some of their guns. Their recoil was phenomenal. They do a lot of cool compensators as well. And then next to us was Hollow Sun. Did get to look at a few Hollow Sun optics. I really like their stuff. I didn't get to shoot anything. And then of course HK was right next to us as well. So we, I'm an MP5 guy. It's just I haven't been able to find that SP5 on sale for not when I say sale, I mean just a regular price, not this $4,000 bullshit that they're doing right now. But yeah, that was kind of one of my only regrets is when you go to this stuff and you work it, you don't actually get to see all the cool shit. So
fair enough. And now if they want to find cool stuff for us, they can check out AR-15 Podcast 2.0 on the Instagram, AR-15 Podcast 2.0 at Gmail to get a hold of us. And people start sending in questions. I know that here coming up in the next month or two, we're going to have a listener question show. So feel free to ask us any question that you might have, and we will try our best to answer them.
If we don't, we'll bullshit our way through.
And I'll try not to go down too many rabbit holes. AR-15 Podcast on Facebook. And then obviously you can find us on the Firearms Radio Network. And you got anything else to add, Tyler?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you guys for taking the time, and I hope I was able to bring some new and interesting companies to light for you, and we'll keep trying to do that.
All right, and you folks out there, you stay safe and stay armed.
Good night.